Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Bree Noble. I am here with Tara B, and we're so glad to be back together again. It's been a bit since we've recorded together, and I always love these episodes because we get into the nitty gritty. Like we're not doing like the big picture, high level stuff.
Right.
We're getting into the nitty gritty stuff, right?
Yes, we do.
And I love it because you're in the trenches. I've done this stuff. I'm not as much in the trenches right now. I am on certain things, but
Mhm.
Tara is a working artist. I mean, working hard. And she's a teacher and all. So we're going to talk about those hard money conversations
Mm.
because as artists, we do have to deal with kind of that, I call it the feast or famine roller coaster with money
Yes.
based upon seasons. I mean, it'll be Christmas and we'll have a million gigs, and then all of a sudden
Hmm.
January is a dead zone, or summer.
Hmm.
Suddenly, our students don't want to take lessons as much as they did because they're all out of town, and so trying to
Right.
figure out how do we even that out. And a lot of times that involves some uncomfortable money conversations. And then there's those ones where like people are supposed to pay us and they haven't. So we'll get into all of that on today's show.
Yeah. You know, Bree, what have you found, I guess, just to start off, what have you found even with yourself or with your artists that you work with? Do you see this like feast or famine that they are having to deal with, that there's seasons or changes that they have to really be aware of?
Oh, for sure. I think especially for teachers, you can have I'm dealing with this right now with it being summer, it's like we're going out of town for a month. My
Yeah.
daughter can't take lessons, and I get it with the way that, the teacher is like she doesn't want to suddenly have her income drop.
Hmm.
And then as far as artists, like definitely it'll be like these surge seasons, like depending on what kind of artist you are. So if you do a lot of like outdoor gigs and festivals and things, summer can be an amazing time.
Right.
And then the winter is just a dead zone, especially if you are in a place that's cold, like you're
Like
Canadian
Minnesota.
or Minnesota where you are, right?
Yeah.
You can still do gigs, obviously, but we've talked about like weather issues with gigs and things getting canceled and stuff like that. And we can have the Christmas surge, and maybe if you're in the church world, like it'll be Advent and Easter seasons, and big surges, and then a lot less. Like our church is really, really slow in the summer, and we don't have a lot
Hmm.
going on.
Hmm.
So we don't have like women's retreats and other events going on where we would have people come and perform and stuff. So definitely it is an issue for I think pretty much every kind of musician.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that I was thinking about just with this whole subject is that as because I've been a full-time musician in some form for, well, it's like over 30 years now.
Yes.
And I found that there's going to be change. I mean, just period. I mean, obviously we all went through that with COVID,
Mm.
but I just think in general, as a musician, a full-time musician, part-time musician, it's that you're going to have to realize, if you haven't thought about it, that there's going to be changes and maybe more quickly than sometimes you think. And yeah, how are you going to pivot, or how are you going to have the income, or what are you going to, like, you can't just say, like, start with one aspect or one avenue and think that that's going to hold you, for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I mean I have some students that like the events that they do rely on grants. And
Mm,
with the changes happening in the government, some things happened for them where it's like things got canceled or they were very much like, we don't know if this is going to happen kind of thing.
mhm,
They're doing events related to grants, or maybe they do libraries and they require grants in order to keep that going. And so, you kind of need to have this like back burner strategy where it's like,
mhm,
okay, if this dries up over here, can I move into this area more?
mhm. Yeah, the one thing I have actually specifically found, this has been in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, but when I was with my duo, the BZ Girls, which that started about 2011, I was doing a ton of wineries. I was doing park concerts, which there were a plethora of them. And I, when I started performing with my brother, which was about 2017, 18, somewhere in there, he and I kind of just transitioned to the park concerts. But my whole point is these park concerts, which were, they still exist, they're still happening. But what we've seen and the trend I've seen the last couple of years is they don't want, at least here in Minnesota, they don't want duos as much or solo artists. They just want bands.
Mm,
And they want bands that are popular as like maybe it's all country bands or rock bands. There's a lot of like nostalgia. So that's who they're starting to hire. And I've looked at this because I did research in January this year when I was trying to book gigs for my brother and I was looking at like past years of all these different park concerts and it was like band, 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 band.
mm.
And so I tried to apply to the ones where they had some maybe duos or trios or something, and literally out of all of those, and it was quite a few. It was probably 25 or something, and places even that we've played in the past. And I got one this year. And
Wow.
yeah. And it was sort of like, oh, okay. But it's also the reminder to myself of, well, maybe there is a shift. And so if there is, then what do I need to change or what do we need to do or find other avenues?
Yeah, I mean, just even thinking about, well, okay, what are places that maybe wouldn't want it to be quite as loud, like going back
Mm-hmm.
more into the wineries and the breweries.
Mm-hmm. I know. So it's, and I guess what I'm just saying is like, you might have something good. Like literally since 2011, it was a great like place to be. And now it's not for me.
Oh, well, there's so much of that going on in the like course selling world and that with where I'm
Yes.
at, right? And maybe some of you guys are in that world as well, or you've sold, group programs or, group coaching and that kind of thing. Like there's so much change because of AI and people just aren't buying as many courses anymore and we're all having to pivot here too. So I
Mm-hmm.
think in every industry there's always going to be shifts of taste, of, things that come and disrupt things that you didn't see coming. And you've got to have, it's why I think like how am I gonna say this? Income streams are a double-edged sword because you can get too fragmented if you have too many and you're not going deep enough into the ones that can really make you the most. But having
Right.
a few that you kind of have dabbled in or you have like a small runway in can help you when things change. Like we all learned about this during COVID for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I thought even like with my brother in this situation, he and I were talking about it. We do have a couple other gigs, but this summer, but we actually kind of said, hey, maybe in the future we don't do our summer gigs anymore because we also have a Christmas show that we really do well with. And we're like, well, maybe that's where we focus our time and energy.
Mm.
And individually we'll do other things in the summer or whatever, but it's just learning to kind of go like take stock of, well, what's actually working and what's not, because we may want to do those shows and in those venues, but if those venues aren't the possibility anymore, yeah, it's either finding new ones or saying, should we look at this differently?
Yeah. Yeah, and you kind of have to you kind of have to figure it out. And yeah, well, usually there'll be a year where it's like, oh, I'm seeing this like suddenly, and it can be a bit disappointing and like discombobulating, honestly. But you
Mm-hmm.
just got to be quick to shift. And like you said, like it's really about like the mental expectations because
Mm-hmm.
if you're just expecting this thing is going to work, it's not always going to work and it can be super disappointing and you can feel
Sure.
like a failure and you're like, oh,
Right.
I suck, like maybe I just forgot to maybe I don't know how to get gigs anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? You can get down on yourself, but a lot of times it's just that the market is shifting.
Yeah. And I think that's okay to realize. The other thing that I've noticed is, and this is true, like you already mentioned it, but like you might have a great gigging time of like December, and then you get to January. Well, maybe that's not a great month for gigs. I found that like April and October for me, for whatever reason, it's just year after year, they're harder to get a lot of gigs here. And so that means that as I'm going through, it's like, well, how am I going to maintain my actual income if I know that's going to happen? Sometimes it's not a thing of like that I can always save so much from the month before, because honestly, when you're making music as full time, it's not, there isn't always a lot extra. I mean,
You
there's
don't
tax.
have a big vault of extra money back here, and yeah,
Well,
I'm so surprised.
well, and I say that also because I've done this as a single woman through the years too, so there's never been a second salary, and not that that makes a huge difference either, because everything's just expensive.
Yes.
But I do think it's kind of saying, okay, well then are there other ways that I can also be supplementing my income? What does that look like? And trying to be mindful of what that could be, whether
Yeah,
it's
and I know for you, in the last few years have started working for a church as a choir director, and that's
yes, I
probably been,
did.
I mean, if Easter is, which this year it was in on April 5th, because that's my daughter's birthday, that's how I know. So like there you go, like you're doing a bunch of stuff, probably a lot of extra hours during that time, and you
Mhm.
probably couldn't do a ton of gigs anyway because you're doing that.
Right. And even with that, again, in church jobs, because some church jobs will go, all year long and some won't. Like our choir, we stop at the end of May. So like I'm done
Mm.
for choir for the summer, which also means no income from choir for the summer.
Mm.
So, but during the year I do have it. So again, it's kind of looking at, well, then what does that mean?
Yeah, so I'm curious. You probably have, especially with what you were saying about not getting the duo gigs as much in the summer, and then you don't have the choir, and and you're also a teacher. And do you feel like the people pull back in the summer? Like, what do you do to make those summer months, give you enough money?
Well, and I have tried to, so not as much outdoor gigs, but whether it's senior gigs or other things, I just honestly tried to really look at booking. Like I've got
Mm.
to book, June full, February, July, August. And then also another job that I do is there's another church that I actually sing at about, well, she'll take me, the woman there, it's on a worship team and they pay, and she'll take me whenever I can come.
Mm.
So it already long ago in my mind, it was like, well, guess what? I'll probably be singing there more in the summer months
Yeah.
because, and it's just real, recognizing that, trying to, I focused on, like I said, with the gigs, I focused filling those months more than like my fall or, before then, because I knew there has to be something that's in place for this.
Yeah, and there is some flexibility that we have. I know my experiences with senior gigs or like women's clubs and things like that. They often book their entire calendar at once. So
Yes.
they can be like, "Oh yeah, I've got, all these dates that you can pick from when you're talking to them in, say August or something." And you can
Hmm.
be like, "Okay, well, I know that let's just say my May is really low. I'm
Hmm.
going to choose this one for May. I'm not going to book it in the months where I know that I know that I've got like this Valentine's program that I'm going to fill my February. I'm not going to book them on February.
Right.
And you could do other things like, well, okay, then I'm going to develop a 4th of July program and I'm going to
Hmm.
book that into some places because I can only be booked during July
Right.
or
And
late
I've got a
June,
few of those. Yeah, I think it's just again, the hard part is I think when you first get into music or come back to music, it's trying to figure out, well, what are the seasons or what are the times I'm going to need it or not. And you don't know that. Sometimes it's just trial and error.
Yeah.
But I've done this long enough where I've seen patterns. And so it's just kind of, yeah, looking ahead at what are the things I need. I know with like teaching, when people are teaching, as you were talking about, like what have you seen works for people with teaching?
I think what can work is getting people to commit to a long period of time where they pay a certain amount each month,
Hmm.
or buying packages.
Mm-hmm.
And because what happens, and I mean, we generally don't cancel lessons for my daughter, but I see that they're getting canceled because she's texting me going, "Hey, I have an opening here. You want to move your lesson up?" Like that
Right.
sucks, right? So
Right.
getting like it shouldn't be at the whim of the student whether they're going to pay you. If you're
Mm-hmm.
setting aside time for them, then they need to commit and pay a certain amount per month, and it's up to them to make those lessons. If they don't, you can be flexible and be like, okay, I understand you're sick or whatever. Let's
Sure.
move it to another time this month. But if you can't make it, that's on you. Like, I need this. I've set aside time for you. That's the way I think about it. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
put aside my time, even like when I do like virtual coaching with people, if
Mm-hmm.
they've bought a coaching, 45 minutes with me and they don't show up, like
Mm-hmm.
that's not my problem.
Right.
I set that time aside. I couldn't book anything
Yes.
else,
Yes.
and if they're like, well, I didn't show up, I should get a refund. We have to have that conversation, explain, no, I set aside this time for you and you didn't show up. That's on you. And
Yeah.
you're still paying for my time because I was sitting here waiting for you.
Right. And I think that all of that takes just planning. And I know maybe some of you don't like planning as much, or maybe you're not natural planners. I mean, I am, so it is easier in that sense. But I think it is trying to say, yeah, if I'm a teacher, how do I want to set this up? And if I can set up that, like, maybe they pay at the beginning of a semester, well, then you kind of know exactly maybe what you're getting for the next, 3, 4 months, however long they are. So you can even then go, okay, so it's this much. So then how do I divide that out each month, even for your own, because maybe they pay up front, you've got it, and maybe you don't need it as much one month. So you actually then put that aside for the next, or maybe you need more one month. So I think that's really smart to think about, like, the packages that you set up for your
Yeah.
students, instead of just assuming, like, well, they're going to take every single month and it's going to be the exact same thing. And
Right.
that's actually not that realistic in our society anymore.
No. No, it's not. And I mean, whether you do it in that like they sign a contract that like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm reserving your time for the next
Right.
6 months or whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And at least then you've got their signature, or you literally charge them up front and you
Mm-hmm.
could you could give a discount, if you pay for 3 months at a time, I'll give you this
Sure.
much off or something.
Yeah. But I think you'll also find then the people that will do those things are the ones that they're willing to commit anyway.
Right.
So it tends to, in the long run, give you a little bit better students too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I know my daughter is going to go to college in music, so I know she
Mm-hmm.
needs to be in these lessons. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not going to be like backing out at all. I
Right.
would be willing to do a package
Right. Right.
if that was needed. I think another thing that came to mind too is if you've got people that are going away in the summer and things like that, you could do some special things in the summer that, number one, like pulled in some people that aren't willing to commit for weekly lessons, but they'd want to learn a specific skill or something like that. You could do some
Yes.
like music theory classes, like we're going to do music theory week, and
Mm-hmm.
have like a little summer camp kind of thing. Or you could do some special like group classes where they're learning a specific technique or something, and that could be substituted for their weekly lessons.
Yeah, that's perfect. I actually forgot about this long ago. It's probably 25, well, actually probably like 30 years ago, but there was a friend of mine that we would partner up and do a piano camp. And
Mm,
we did it for a week, and we kind of got students from both of us, and it was a daily thing. She was actually able at the time to have it in her home, which I realize that doesn't always work, but
right.
it could be an online thing too.
Yeah.
And it just, the point is, it actually provided income for us. It was very, it was for just a week. It was intense for the week, but we actually had quite a few students because they wanted something that was different and fun. And then they were done for the summer, but it helped
Yeah.
us too.
Or you can have it like we actually have some people renting our church for this kind of thing. You can have
Yes.
it at a church, right?
Hmm.
And you can pay a small rental fee for the and you can have a lot of kids and you
Right.
could do multiple things if you wanted multiple teachers could get together and one teaches, the theory and one teaches sight singing and however you want to do it or you put on a little program or something like that.
Hmm.
But I sent my daughter to some stuff like that when she was younger that we had in the community, and it was super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again thinking outside of the box. So,
Yep. Yep.
so well, one thing when we were thinking about hard money conversations is the whole thing of um, getting paid or not getting paid, or when are you getting paid?
Hmm.
Have you found students that have had issues with that?
Oh, for sure. And we've all had it. If you've ever done enough gigs, you've had it. I'm curious, you've done so many gigs. Like you've probably had every situation under the sun. I know that and I always did this too, like especially for the busy seasons, take a deposit. But have you ever I've had students say to me like they told me they were going to pay me this much and when I got there they paid me half as much. Like has stuff like that ever happened to you?
I haven't had with the amount, but what I have had, and this is something again, I have dealt with it every single year by at least a couple of places. It's never the majority, but it's simply of the when I get
Mm-hmm.
paid. And I've been very mindful in the past, I would say even since COVID, of when I book a gig with a place to say, not just how much we're deciding on, that
Mm-hmm.
amount, but when are you going to pay me? Or here's when I would like to get paid. And
Right.
I've usually approached it that way of I have a policy for myself that is I either want the check handed to me that day or within a week. That's just
Mm.
because I don't want to be running around chasing checks. I'll do like 10 to 13 gigs a month. So
Yeah,
all of those is income coming in and I don't want to be having to go after any of them really to get paid, but to also think of it in like the next month, because I always tell people too when they are booking, you're providing a service. So if you think of, you go get your haircut, you go get your car repaired, none of that is, it's not 4 weeks later. You're paying them up front.
for sure.
And the hard part is sometimes people say, well, it's got to go through corporate offices
Yep.
and blah, blah, blah. But the thing that yeah, so I'll say this policy, and there have literally been places that I have actually not taken because they'll say, well, we can't put the check in till this amount or the invoice until this day. And then I'll ask them like, well, if you do it that day, then when do you think that I would actually get it? Which, by the way, a lot of places still do pay in checks. They
Yep.
won't do direct deposit. And so then you're the mail service, which has gotten terrible as well.
Terrible. Terrible.
Terrible. So, it's like they'll say, oh, well, maybe 2 to 3 weeks or 4 weeks and so if it's a certain amount up front, I literally will say, well, you know what? That doesn't work for me. And I will
Yep.
just bow out, not take that gig. But when sometimes it's new places, I have to admit, I'll say, well, I want to see. I want to see if this works. And so I had a place literally no, two places this year. Both happened in the spring. New places. When I asked them when I would get paid, it wasn't right away, but they said it'll probably come within 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, should I do it? And I thought, well, 2 weeks, I'll deal with that. Both places, it ended up being, I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to keep calling and
Ugh.
keep emailing. And it was sitting somewhere, in someone's hands. It
Yep.
wasn't like the activity director, it was somewhere higher up in corporate. But I just, after that, I just said, I always base it on two, like if somebody is kind about it and I feel like they're being apologetic and all that, that may make me change my mind on working with them again.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's not even that there, which there wasn't at either place,
Oh
it's just
gosh.
kind of like, well, you'll get it, you'll get paid eventually.
I'm like, no, you don't
Yeah.
understand. I have rent. Yeah.
Right. So I made again a decision of both those places. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going back.
Mm.
And and I know that can feel hard too, because you feel like, yeah, but I have to get gigs. But the amount of energy and time when you have to chase checks, to me, that's also not worth it because that could be
Yep.
spent time doing something else.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I mean, I totally get it too, because we, like at the church, we do checks, but we have it mailed
Yeah.
out from like our bill pay system. And it
Mm.
can take a bit, but if you're booking it way in advance,
Hmm.
like I could have it sent out to you before you even get here, you know?
Right. And some places do that.
Right.
I mean, I've asked for that too, where I get them the invoice like a month in advance or more than that. But yeah, it really, I think so often we're scared as musicians to say, like to have a parameter.
Yeah. But I
And
think it shows us as professionals, like we are a business. Like
right,
we are not just this
absolutely.
person that's like begging for money. Like we are a business. We need to make a certain amount per month, and this
Right,
is how we do that. And that's
right.
how professionals do it, you know?
Oh man.
Well, so
Yeah.
do you take like any other form of, do you take like credit cards or Cash App or Zelle or something like, or Venmo or whatever to deal with some of these problems?
I have. There's a couple places that will do Zelle. Um, I did even have somebody did PayPal, I think, one time
Oh,
even
interesting.
because they needed to use a credit card, and so they went through that. But I'll just be honest, most places, I wish more places had direct deposit.
Hmm.
There's a few, but there are like some of the bigger theaters and things like that, they will have direct deposit,
Right.
which is great. But it is still hard yet because some places, weirdly so, are still reliant on the check
Well, I
and
get it
cutting a
because
check.
we have these bylaws, at church where it's like everything has to be seen by the treasurer, and
Mm,
so you technically aren't supposed to be putting a ton of stuff on credit cards or debit cards.
sure.
So I totally see where that is, but like to be fair, it can be done. Like I
Yes.
can be like, okay, I'm going to run it by the treasurer and then I'm going to go ahead and put it on the debit card or, whatever we did, Zelle or something like that.
Well, and I just thought of one of the places in the last year that paid me, it was on a credit card because I had asked about, getting it the day of, and they were like, well, it'll probably take like 4 weeks, but let me
Mm.
see if we can do credit card. And then they could. So it doesn't hurt to ask, I guess. That's what I'm trying to
Do
say.
you charge like 4% more if they do that?
I don't. I probably should. It's like with PayPal too. It's like I should
Yep.
pay charge more, but I just kind of go, well, here's the thing. At least I get it smack dab
Exactly.
now.
So, that 4%, whatever that is probably worth the stress of you having to chase the money.
Right. And it's a tax write-off.
Ah,
So,
yes.
it's an
At
expense
least there's
for
that.
business. So yeah, I don't get to. And but even with students though, I was thinking that's another thing online that um making it available or really easy for your students to be able to pay you
Oh, yeah.
is just setting up. There's so many things of you can set up of
Oh yeah,
parameters to
I
allow.
use auto Zelle. I have an
Mhm.
automated Zelle that happens every
I love
month.
Zelle.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, if you
it's easy for me too, because I don't want to have to remember to do that every month.
I know. And if you've never like I still know people that are like, well, available. It's like most banks nowadays have Zelle available.
Most of them now.
Not everyone,
Or
maybe,
you can
but
do Venmo, there's a lot
yep,
of options.
there is.
You can even do like a subscription on PayPal.
You can. You
Yeah.
can, it works. And even like Cash App, I think that's available, I know in the US. I don't know in other
Mm.
countries maybe, but yeah. There's just there's
And
things you
if you
can
make it
do.
really easy, so like if you are using, let's say, QuickBooks or, one of those, whatever it is, I'm trying to think of the like My Music Staff or whatever, one of those ones that allows you to send invoices, they make
Yeah.
it super simple to just click on it and like pay with your card if you
Hmm.
haven't set up something automatic. But
Yeah,
like, don't send an invoice that doesn't have a button that makes it really easy for people, or you're going to have problems getting paid.
So true. I take from a voice teacher, and that's how she does it every month. She sends the
Mhm.
invoice on an email, but you
Yep.
click on it and it takes you right where you
Yep.
can put
Takes
your
you
credit
right
card.
there. It's already got your card populated by
Yep,
then,
it's
probably. So it's
awesome.
really
Yeah, it's
easy to
like,
do.
yay. And we need to make things easy for people. That is another
Yes.
thing.
Yes, because in
So
the long run, it makes things easy for us. Like it
for
takes 30
us,
minutes to set this thing up, but then it's going to make our life so much easier.
and you want that, and especially honestly with getting paid, the more you can have in place for you getting your money, it's just it's going to make it more joyful because
Yes.
it's the thing you don't want to be chasing around.
Yeah, and you don't want to be go showing up to the gig resentful because you know that you might not get paid for 6 weeks.
Right. Yes. Very good point.
Like even if you try so hard to separate that from the gig, it's really hard, it's still in the back of your mind. Well, am I really going to get paid for this? Like,
Yeah.
should I really give like this amazing performance when I don't even know if I'm going to get paid?
Yeah, I that is such a good point, Bree. In fact, I was at a senior place where they had me do it was three different buildings in
Oh
one
my.
day, and they were shorter performances. But it was my first time there, and they did come through in the end, I will say, better. I mean, I had to kind of go after them,
Hmm.
but it was it because literally when I came to like one of the first gig or something, the guy was I was just like, okay, now do you have my check for me or whatever? And he was like, oh no, I haven't even sent in the invoice.
Oh
And
Lord.
I had made it clear, on my emails. And so it was just this like it cast this thing on me. And I was
Oh,
like, I had to brush it aside to go, but these people that are here,
it's not their fault. I know.
not their fault. So yeah, it can be hard to do that.
Yeah, it can be hard to separate those things, especially when the people in charge of the money are not even the people that are there. Like if it's
Right.
like a corporate thing,
Right.
right? It's not
Right.
their fault. Well, so what about if you have you ever had a situation where so you had a bad experience with getting paid, but you decided, okay, I'm going to try to do this again, but like I'm going to talk to them in advance and, tell them this is what happened last year. And if this, I can't do it that way again. Have you gone to them and say, okay, this is what happened, but
Mhm.
I can't do that because I can't wait 6 weeks for it. So if you want to have me, like, here are the options that you can pay in advance.
I have, and some of them haven't, but
Hmm.
I definitely can think of a place that did. They were just like, "Oh, of course." You're like,
Mm.
and I think it was actually even a new person that was in charge, but
Ah.
that made it a little more easy too.
Exactly,
But
because you're like, oh, it wasn't you that caused this
right,
problem, but this was a problem, and then
right.
they want to help you out.
It's true. And it really again, I forget this sometimes, but it does boil down to having the relationships with the people that you build.
Yep.
And some are going to change often, and so you might have to keep rebuilding those relationships, but it's kind of just I think you get good at too through the years realizing like this is going to be a great person to work with who values me, and this maybe isn't a great person to work with.
Yep. Yep. You kind of, after doing it so many times, you get a
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah, you do.
You
And
definitely.
there are some I know I've kind of said the bad stuff, but there are some really wonderful people who I have literally worked with for a decade or more
Wow.
who continue to hire me. We have a great relationship. They pay me. I mean, I can think of two places I walk in, the check is on the piano.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
it's just so there are people that value us as musicians and they show that.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I love it when I remember, I used to do all these luncheons and stuff. And I would
Yeah.
show up and they'd be like, "Oh, here's your spot and stuff." And I'd look
Oh,
and there's a little card and it has the check in it. And I'm like,
isn't that
"Oh,
great?
so happy."
It's such a good feeling.
Yes.
I know. And it is strange that in our line of work, where other lines of work, people just get a paycheck every couple weeks. And we're just like, yay, I got my
I
paycheck.
know, like, or as if that's like not a given.
But such as, it's just part of, I guess, being a musician and all the things that go with it. So
It
I think
is. It is. Do you feel like now that you have um so how many streams of income do you have? Because you do teaching, you do gigs, you like a couple different kind of gigs. You do the tribute gig, and then you've got the church
Right.
job. Like, do you feel like sometimes your head is swimming with like the number of places that income is coming from?
Yeah. And I keep a very detailed list of what's coming in and kind of knowing because it is true. It's like I'm technically kind of working with two churches. Yeah, I've got these other shows solo, I've got teaching. So yeah, it can be, but I'm also really grateful to have these streams of income.
Yeah.
And actually, to be honest, Bree, I like the variety. I mean, do you like the variety of what you do?
I do like the variety. Yeah, I think about that with now working at the church. Like
Hmm.
I love the variety of being able to perform again all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and then I sometimes I just like the variety of like sitting down and crunching numbers, which is also part of my job there, because I
Yeah.
do have my degree in accounting and
Right.
obviously I started this business because I wanted to help musicians with the business side. And then
Hmm.
when I do my marketing stuff for my business, I'm like, now I got my marketing hat on and that's fun. And,
Yeah.
but like I love that I get to kind of switch and then now I'm coaching students. So
Right.
I think it keeps us in it. Like if we did the same thing over and over again, we might burn out.
Oh, for sure. And I do think, I mean, as you talk all the time, I know to your students, but it's that whole income streams. And when you have at least a few in place, I'm not talking about, 10 or something, but I do think it helps. And even for me, I'll be honest, this I decided, even though I do teach online, I decided to reach out to some music schools here, and just got hired recently by one. It's just 1 day a week I'll be working, but it's exactly what I want to be doing. It's teaching voice. It's not far from me. They take care of, they actually are treating me as an employee, but there's even other things that are benefits that I've never had or never seen from a studio. And
Nice.
and it's just because it was like I wanted to keep teaching, but I also wanted to have something in the community of teaching because I've done a lot of online teaching. And I'm kind of looking forward to just that in itself. And yes, it is another source of income that's consistent.
Yep.
So, but
Yep.
still
And
within what I like.
yeah, no, that's important. And like I think about the fact that I get to do funerals now. And
Yeah.
I just it's kind of like play money in a way because I don't know when it's going to
Mhm.
come.
Right.
But
Right.
when it comes, I'm like, oh great, like now I can do this, buy this piece of equipment or this thing that I wanted or whatever. And I probably end up doing like 4 or 5 a year, and
Hmm.
it's really nice to have when it comes your way because you've done the work to get secure that stream of income. It's not like a regular thing. But or
Hmm.
like for example, like if I get online session work, like when that happens, I'm like, cool,
Yes.
that's
I
fun.
just had
I
one.
enjoy doing this, but like I'm not looking for it. But
Right.
because I've built relationships and set things up online and things like that, it does happen sometimes. And then that like kind of feels like, oh, I can, spend a little extra on this thing that I denied myself because I got this little extra thing.
Absolutely. In fact, that makes me think that, as you're saying, like even the online, because I know I literally just recorded somebody or something for someone this week. It's about once a year it seems to happen.
Mm,
But I like, I think even for people with the money issues or whatever is maybe just even adding something every single year that like where the setup takes a little while, but something that could produce
yep.
just income coming in. And if you do it like not 10 things at once, but you do one, it might then have some of those, like you're saying, just that extra play money where you're going to need it in a
Yeah,
moment.
like you never know. I think I set up my music in Audio Sparks like years ago. I mean, probably 15 years ago at least.
Mm-hmm.
And then every quarter I like still get this like, oh, look, I made $50 or I made, $120 from this.
Perfect.
For people, listening to my music or like licensing it in some way. and
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect it, but when it happens, it's cool and it just adds to the overall. And it took me an hour to set it up 15 years ago.
Right. Right. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, there may be an initial, yeah, it's going to. I mean, even like affiliates, that's another thing that
Yeah.
I have. It's like I get very little teeny things, but every once in a while it's like, oh, you referred someone. Like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah, you can't really rely on it, but it's
Right.
great when it happens and it does add up. Like I get little tiny dribs and drabs from stuff like that too.
I'm sure you do because I know you've had a lot of affiliate
I
work, which
have.
is
It's
like
not, I
fun.
mean, I have more direct relationship, like I call them more like partners, but I
Right.
used to have, a few real solid affiliate relationships with tools, and
Hmm.
that it's not really the case much anymore, which is a bummer. But I do occasionally get this like, oh, look, you made $9 or, whatever. And if you have enough tools, I can add up to, 50 to 100 a month.
I know. And to me, I think that every little bit counts, even if it's just something for fun, then
Yeah.
treat yourself to something fun. You
Yeah,
know,
totally.
we need those.
Totally. Well, wow, we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that
We
you wanted to
have.
be sure to say while we were talking about this, like feast or famine roller coaster?
I I guess just the thing of knowing that it probably will be a bit of a roller coaster and don't freak out about that
Mm,
because I think that there are many different options and I think just maybe anticipating like getting it in our mindset that yeah, things will change. And not that you freak out about that, but just kind of know that if something's working now, that's fantastic. Like keep doing it. But if there's something that you feel like, I just can't figure out why this is so hard, maybe look at changing something.
yeah, and it's probably not you. It's probably that
Yeah.
the market has changed or something
Yeah.
about the situation has,
Yes.
who knows
Yeah.
what
Don't take
things
it
are changing all the
personally.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're the problem. It's like it's usually not.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, we could have all said, well, I guess, oh, us musicians, well, woe is us, but it
We figured
wasn't
it
our
out.
fault. Yeah, we figured it
We
out. So
figured it
anything
out.
you have yet to say, Bree? Because I know you've had a lot of conversations with a lot of women on some of these hard things.
Yeah, I mean, I think just going into this career knowing that this is part of the deal. And that's why I
Mhm.
always encourage people to start out at least with having a part-time job. So you're not
Mm, yeah.
stressed out about money all the time because, and I always say this, like people can smell desperation. And if you're
So
desperate to get
true.
a gig, it comes across even though you think you're hiding it.
Hmm.
And so you don't want to be relying on getting a particular gig to pay your rent.
Or teaching, like
Yeah.
teaching students, because that too, people can smell it. Like if they're
Yes, they
like,
can.
well, I'm gonna quit, and like, oh, but you really should. And it's like they might be quitting because they have too much going on or that they
Yes.
can't afford it. Like it's not necessarily you. So
Yep. I mean, it's certainly you can offer them some options. Oh, well,
yeah.
can we make this work better for you or whatever? But maybe we should go to every other week or whatever. That's certainly like you want to help the student, but you can't make it all about, oh my gosh, like if you quit, like I can't make my rent or I can't buy myself groceries.
Right. Or somehow manipulate, like, well, if you quit, you're going to lose all this. Like, put it
Right.
on them as though something's awful of them for quitting.
Right.
You can't.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But
So,
yeah,
hey,
you also want to remind them, like, look at how much progress we've made. You don't want
right.
to lose that either. So it's a fine line. I'm not saying it's an easy conversation to have.
It never is. I always feel like money conversations in general, however you're negotiating, it's like they're not easy, but they do have to happen
They
and
do.
they're not impossible.
Yep. Takes
If I can
practice.
do it as an introvert and I used to be
Exactly. I was
shy and
scared to death about having these conversations when I
me
first
too.
started.
Me too.
So, just the fact, like, there was nothing out there like this podcast for me to hear. what
No.
other people were going through, and that it wasn't just me, that I wasn't just like a total scaredy cat, like being ridiculous. Like, no, we all deal with these feelings.
Yes.
And so that's why we want to normalize it for you guys, and
Yeah,
make you feel like, it's not just you. It is hard, but you can get better with practice, and you can get more comfortable
absolutely.
with it.
Hmm. Thanks for talking about this today, Bree, because I think
Yeah,
it was a
I
very
was
good
excited to have this
idea.
conversation.
So,
Well, you guys, if you've got anything you want us to talk about, please send us a message on Instagram. I'm at Profitable Musician LLC, and
and
Tara is at.
Tara Brueske Music, and it's Brueske, Brueske.
Awesome. We would love to have a DM conversation with you guys on Instagram. And thank you for being such great listeners of the shows.
Yes, thank you.